I love Kamigami battles, and I hope you're enjoying it too. For a rather straightforward card building game, there's actually a lot of depth in it. And when the new expansion is around the corner, I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at the gods already in the game and talk about what their value is and how good they play early, mid, and late game. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at the gods in the first set, the Battle 9 Realms first. I won't go too deep and talk about how the gods in the Battle 9 Realms work with the warriors and River Souls, but instead I'm just going to talk about how those gods play in later on when the sets come out. If there is a warrior or a particular new god that comes out in a later set that really benefits the older set, I'll definitely bring that up. Now, as clear as the rules are, this is my understanding and also interpretation of other players as well. We tried very hard to make sure we got the rules squared away before we started analyzing or talking more or playing more in the game. And of course, I've asked any questions that came to mind on places like the Japan Games Kamigami Facebook page. If we're misunderstanding the god's abilities or misunderstanding a rule, let me know so that way I can correct it. The first god I'm going to look at is going to be Zeus from the Greek side of the set. Sadly, being the king of gods, Zeus is not really that great of a god for a 1v1 match. He's more of a free-for-all or a team match. The reason why is that his abilities, Rage and Lightning, they don't really play too well in terms of 1v1. If you decide to use Rage during your stamina phase, you have to skip your play phase and instead attack each of your opponents with one attack. So that is pretty good in terms of multiplayer, because you're actually hitting every single other god with one attack, as opposed to just doing a direct attack with your warriors. Zeus can hit everyone. That's pretty huge, but in terms of early game, it's really beneficial. In terms of mid and late game, at that point you want to really stack up with warriors or disciples of other cards from the decks, because you're going to be lacking a lot, because your opponents are going to be drawing a lot of cards and getting a lot of warriors and doing a lot of combos, while you're not going to be doing much with Zeus because you keep having to discard your whole entire hand, losing your play phase. His other ability, Lightning, which is a react, is you perform an education. If the reveal card is the same card shown by education, you may choose one player and look at their hand and select any number of warriors in their hand and banish them. You lose 1 HP for each banished card. So that actually is really good, because you can target any player according to the perform education. If the education goes through, you can target any player, get rid of all the warriors in their hand, making their following turn pretty much useless if they only have 5 or less cards in their hand. Earlier on that might not be useful, but later on, mid, late game, that's definitely going to be helpful, especially later in the game, where hopefully you'll be able to stack HP or be able to get rid of a lot of warriors out of an opponent's hand, because at that point, people really are trying to get more warriors than disciples and defenders. Well, defenders, you want them still, but disciples, not really a lot of them later on. With the introduction of temples, Zeus has access to 3 different types of temples. The one temple I would recommend would be the temple of, I can't pronounce that, Hertzwix. The reason why this temple I would recommend is because when a warrior or disciple is banished, this gains a point. And on Zeus here, his ability Lightning, it banishes them. So this will definitely benefit that temple, and that temple is going to give you the ability to banish one warrior or disciple from your hand to gain 2 currency, 2 faith points I should say. It may not be the most offensive option, but it's definitely going to be something that works really well with his second ability. On the other side of the gods, we have Odin from Asgard. Now between Odin and Zeus, Odin definitely ruins Zeus completely. His abilities are always good, early, late, or mid-game, and he has a lot of canceling factor. His first ability, Judgment, discard 1 card from your hand whenever any player performs education. That literally ruins Zeus. On top of any other god or any other ability that involves an education, you're really stopping. It has a lot of stopping power, stopping your opponent from doing anything. Well, doing anything related to the education. His other ability, Ruler, that one's a really insane ability. That really makes Zeus super strong. The reason why is that when you attack with a warrior, after completing their first attack, that warrior can attack 1 additional god. It's worded a little oddly, and I had to get that checked out. But what that means is that if you attack 1 god and attack goes through, as in the attack goes through, or they block it, or it's not banished, or something like that happens, if that attack gets completed, then that warrior can attack again an additional god or the same god. Even if they block it with a defender, Zeus can have his ability and have that warrior attack again, meaning you have to block it once more, but that's it, you don't get an additional on top of the additional. Of course, if you chain it into another warrior that chains this with another attack, then you can do that again and just ruin your opponent that way. It's super strong, which makes sense for the ruler of Asgard. It's just too bad that Zeus, being the ruler of gods, does not have an amazing ability like that. When it comes to temples, from the set he's from, unfortunately none of the temples really benefit or really do anything for him to complement his abilities, but ultimately there isn't any specific temple that really goes great with Zeus. Next on the Greek side is going to be Apollo. Apollo is an interesting god because he's one of the gods that had a change in this game. His previous iteration had an ability that was paired up with Artemis, which makes sense because the game is a team game, so them together as a teammates was really beneficial in them. Of course, if you play them separately, Artemis did have kind of a bane against that. He definitely has a few things going on for him. First thing is his first ability, Fusion. Whenever you gain HP during your play phase, you may take a Disciple card from the Hall of Heroes and place on top of your deck. So this gives you free Disciple cards every time you gain HP. This means you're looking at warrior cards such as Mermaid and Taurus. Reason why is they give you HP, so it's going to be able to benefit his ability and just get more Disciples stacked up. His other ability, Blight, gives green warriors the ability to attack too. So that means any green warriors you have in your deck, such as Cancer, Siren, or Aquarius, can get that ability to do attack instead of just having to do whatever support abilities you have. That's very beneficial, but it really depends on what's going on. Their abilities are really good, but you always have that chance of giving that extra attack if you need an additional attack that turn. Temple-wise, there seems to be a temple that appears to be almost made for him. That'll be the Temple of Syracuse, which reads, whenever a god gains HP, this temple gains 1 HP, and you pay 2 of those HPs on the temple to put a Disciple card from the Hall of Heroes on top of your deck. So both of these are putting Disciple cards on your top of your deck, which is really beneficial. I would say Apollo is really good all around from early game to late game, because his abilities function very well in terms of whatever situation you're in. Such if you gain HP, you add more Disciples, so early game, if you're able to gain HP, you'll increase how many cards in your deck so you can have more Disciples, more purchase power. Or if you need to attack and there's not a lot of warriors that are red, you do have the green warriors that allow you to attack with his abilities. Next on Asgard's side is Sora. Sora had a change of artwork and became a waifu. Sora has an ability that's similar to Odin's, but going with War Drum first. You pay 1 HP during your discard phase, put 1 warrior that you play this turn on top of your deck into the discard pile. So that allows you to save a warrior or bring back a warrior that's red, a red warrior, back to the top of your deck and redraw the following turn, so you can keep attacking again and again and again. Hopefully, depending on what your combination, what goes on. The ability Sora has that's similar to Odin's is Smash. Pay 1 HP when you attack with a warrior. That warrior gains 2 attack. You may activate this only once per attack. So very interestingly, it says per attack, not per attack phase. This means that every time you attack, you pay 1. That attack with a warrior will gain 2 attack. So this means you can have something like 1 warrior attack, then pay 1 HP, increase attack to 2 more, so it'll be 4, then combo that into something that combos into another warrior to attack, pay 1, add more to attack. The temple I would recommend for Sora would be the Temple of Uppsala. Reason why is when you attack, this temple gains 1 to its HP. And with Sora being a very heavy attack card, well, you'll be attacking in general anyways. And its ability, pay 2, just like Sora's ability, add 2 to an attack. Again, this ability is per attack, not attack phase. So that means Sora will give +2 to a warrior, and the temple will give +2 to the same warrior, so you're getting a 4 attack added, which is really insane. Play-wise, I find Sora one of those cards that's pretty useful all game. In early game, if you have the 1 warrior card and you just keep recycling that warrior card, keep attacking. Mid game, you're going to start stacking attacks, and late game, you're going to have a huge combo, and hopefully your temple will be stacked too, so you just be attacking and boosting, and just wrecking your opponent's life that way. Next on the Greek side is going to be Hades. Hades is actually a very hysterical god. He did have a slight rework from his previous iteration, but what's funny about Hades is how his abilities work and how you can really troll someone very savagely if you get the right things going. Hades' abilities actually complement each other. His first ability, which is Underworld, discard 1 card from your hand when one of your warriors is banished. Take 1 Disciple from the Hall of Heroes and add it to your hand or another player's discard pile. And the second ability, which is Undying, whenever a warrior is banished, pay 2, put that 1 card into any player's discard pile instead. So in reverse order, this can make some funny situations, because I had one game where one of the players managed to put every single Disciple that was left in one player's deck, so they could not draw anything and they couldn't buy anything on the field. And that was because the old rules for Kansumi Goddesses was that if there's multiple warriors on the play, you don't stack them on top of each other like they did in Kamigami battles. I think that might have been one reason why they changed that. So hysterically, in the end, the Hades player only had like 10 cards in their deck, and the other player had like the full 50 or 40 Disciples in their deck. And they couldn't do anything. So all Hades kept doing was just drawing that one attack card and attacking, and the other player couldn't do anything. Aside from that though, the way it works is that whenever a warrior is banished, pay 2, put that card into any player's discard pile instead. So whenever a warrior is banished, you can actually do that to take that warrior and put it in your own discard pile if you want, or a teammate's discard pile. If it was one of your warriors, then the first ability, you discard 1 card from your hand. When one of your warriors banished, take a disciple from the Hall of Heroes, add it to your hand or any player's discard pile, so you get additional card that way. And then of course, you can always do Undying to stop that warrior from being banished and put it back into your discard pile. It's a little tricky in the wording, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So to put it in somewhat context, a warrior in your hand is banished from either on the field or what be it. You activate Undying. You pay 2 life off of this to put that in a player's discard pile instead. And then, with React, for Underworld, you discard 1 card from your hand in order to, because this warrior was getting banished, and take a disciple from the Hall of Heroes and put it into any discard pile or your hand. You might need a double check on that to see if those abilities actually completely complement each other in the way I mentioned, but that's how we've been playing it, and Hades does create some hysterical situations because of that. Hades does have an assortment of warriors that actually benefit him. One is going to be Fierce Star, which you discard warriors from your hand to decrease the attack of this, so again, you can use Hades' abilities to hypothetically bring them back. Pandora, which is banish 1 warrior from your hand or from discard pile. You can use his abilities to recover that banished card and gain the other banished card if you want. Siren's really great with Hades, because if an opponent has their warriors banished and you manage to bring that back into your discard pile and play Siren, you can actually use that card because you choose 1 card from discard pile and put it in your hand, so you can actually use that warrior the same turn, providing you have the correct combination. So Siren's actually really great with Hades. And in Sagittarius, it's also really good, because draw 1 card, then banish a warrior from the Hall of Heroes. You can draw a card, banish, and then you can use Hades' abilities to bring that warrior back to you. So Hades has a lot of shenanigans when it comes to discarding or banishing cards and warriors. And the temple I would recommend would be, again, Temple of Hertzquist on Hades. The reason why is when you banish a disciple warrior, gain 1 in the temple, and again, you pay 2 from this temple, banish 1 warrior to disciple your hand, you gain 2 faith points or currency, and again, you can use Hades' abilities to bring them back. One big thing to keep in mind is that this is not with canceling. If a card is banished, you can use the ability to stop that and take the card back. It's not canceling because the banish still has to play through. So keep in mind when you're playing with this game, these abilities have to resolve first before anything can be played else afterward. So if you're in the middle of banishing this card, for example, or this warrior, and it gets cancelled, you can't use Hades' ability to bring this back. You have to let the banishment go through and then use the abilities to bring it back. Hades, I'd say, would be good all around, maybe not early game, because early game you don't really have a lot of warriors, a lot of cards in each other's play decks just yet. So as mid and later game rolls around, there's a lot more warriors, a lot more abilities. You're going to be using Hades' ability more often, and also you're going to need to gain HP, because he uses HP to use ability. You're going to have to find a way to gain HP to mitigate that. Next, on the Asgard side is Valkyrie. Valkyrie is one of my favorite cards. I really like Valkyrie. She's one of my go-to gods if it's a game that you can choose your god. Typically, with the way the game's set up, you choose them at random, but if for some reason they let you choose your god, Valkyrie is one I go to. Valkyrie's abilities are pretty simple. The first one, Belief, whenever your disciple is banished, put that card in discard pile instead. So that banish proofs your disciples. Something to keep in mind about that was errated in, or at least mentioned in the rulebook, is that cancels banishment. The card never gets banished. That means any ability that, like Hades' abilities to take cards that are banished, Hades cannot do it because those cards were never completely banished. It was not resolved to be banished, it was cancelled. So you don't have to worry about players snatching your banished cards from you, because again, it cancels the banishment, so it never actually hits the Netherworld. Valkyrie's second ability, which I really like, which is called Guide. When any warrior would be banished, any warrior, so from your hand, opponent's hand, or from the Hall of Heroes, pay 1, perform education, it does you get card as a disciple, put that warrior into your discard pile instead. So you're getting free warriors from that effect if you can successfully do educations for disciples. Warrior cards that give Valkyrie a lot of benefit is going to be Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, draw a card, which is good, banish 1 warrior card from your Hall of Heroes. So you can do that, and then with Valkyrie's ability, hopefully be able to grab that warrior that's been banished and add it to your pile. Aquarius is another card which is really great because her second ability, choose of the 2 cards in your hand and banish them, draw 2 cards for each card banished. This way you can banish disciples. If you banish 2 disciples, draw 4 cards. Valkyrie's ability stops those disciples from being banished so you get them back. That's one reason why I really like Valkyrie, because you can just spam Aquarius and just keep drawing a lot of cards and never lose anything that way. The other warrior that works really well with Valkyrie is Pandora. Reason why? Banish one warrior from your hand or your discard pile. If you do, banish one warrior from your opponent's discard pile. So you can use those banishments, again, guide ability, and get those warriors back. So Valkyrie is very good at getting draw cards and just getting warriors put into your own deck. Of course, you go to discard pile first, but discard pile will be eventually part of your deck, so you're getting warriors for free in the end. Returning again will be Temple of Herstwisk. That's definitely going to be able to benefit with Valkyrie a lot. Again, warrior or disciples banished. Valkyrie's first ability isn't going to really be the greatest with this one, sadly, just because it cancels banishment, so you're not going to be able to get that big payoff from that. But her second ability, that's where it definitely comes in play, because you're going to be gaining faith points from doing that banishment and paying off this temple for that. In terms of gameplay, I think Valkyrie is going to be definitely great towards mid and late game, because at that point, again, lots of warriors, lots of things going on, banishing, attacking, losing cards. Valkyrie's going to be able to help save those cards and also be able to add those cards to your deck. Next on the Greek side is going to be Poseidon. Poseidon's an interesting card, it is one I like, but her abilities can make you suffer a standstill or go just nowhere. Looking at her first ability first, Tidal Control. Pay 1, select up to 2 cards from the Hall of Heroes or 1 card from the top of any player's deck and banish a selected card. So that gives you some options to work with. So if you have some cards on the field or in the Hall of Heroes that you don't want your opponent to get, you can use that ability to get rid of them. Or if you know that one next card is going to be something useful for them, you can always banish that so they don't get to use it. Poseidon's big ability is Rewind. That's where she really shines. Reason why is you discard 2 cards from your hand, choose 1 player, so you can choose yourself. That player chooses 1 card from their discard pile and adds it to their hand. So that means that if you play a specific warrior card, you can use this ability the following turn, discard 2 cards, get that warrior, and just keep attacking or what be it. Big issue is that you're discarding 2 cards. Typically you're discarding disciples because you don't only really discard your warriors. Hopefully you grab warriors you're going to be using, so you're not going to be able to buy new warriors, so you're kind of in a standstill or kind of going in a circle. You really have to plan that out carefully because you don't want to be in a situation where you're not getting a lot and your opponent's getting more and more warriors or more defenders, what be it, in their deck. The temple that works great with Poseidon is going to be, again, Temple of Herstwisk. Reason why, Warriors Disciples banish, specifically Warriors Disciples, because this banishes warriors from the Hall of Heroes. And again, you pay 2, banish a warrior, and add 2 faith points to your turn. Poseidon's pretty good in terms of all gameplay. Early game might be a little different because you don't have a lot of warriors coming in, so you have to use your disciples to buy warriors, not use your disciples for her second ability. On the flip side, if not a lot's going on, you can just keep recycling the warrior you keep playing to hopefully benefit you. Mid and late wise, again, by that point, you'll hopefully have a lot of warriors to use, doing a lot of damage, and if you need to bring one back to do increase in combination, what be it, her ability, you can discard anything, so her ability is pretty good all around. Next card on the Asgard side is going to be Chef John. I cannot pronounce that still. Chef John isn't very much of an offensive god, it's more of a defense or utility kind of god. First ability, Act, pay 1, look at the top 5 cards of any player's deck and put the 2 of them in the discard pile, put the remaining cards on their deck in any order. So that's going to be kind of an ability that would help if you're trying to draw certain cards and you have warriors in the way, or not warriors, but disciples. You can use it to get rid of disciples and keep those warriors on top on your deck or a player or a teammate's deck or an opponent's deck. Get rid of their warriors so they can just have all the disciples on the top, so hopefully you won't have to do any combos their following turn. Second ability, Future, Hormone Education. If the education card is a warrior, you may pay 1, discard your entire hand to draw 5 cards. You may activate this ability once per turn. So that's going to be one of her strong points, is that you can effectively reset your hand. This is an act that has to be done during your play phase, so hypothetically, you'll be able to start playing some cards, use the God ability, and refresh your whole entire hand for a new 5 cards, so you can keep doing more things in your turn. That's as far as that goes, pretty straightforward, nothing too insane with her abilities. Something to keep in mind though, these are acts, and with acts you can do an act ability once per turn. So you want to do her first act, and on yourself actually, because then you can put a warrior on top of your deck, then do the second act, which is going to be education for a warrior. You're obviously going to have a warrior, and you're going to be refresh your whole entire hand. That's something really amazing you do with her, and that's pretty much your biggest highlight. Temple-wise, the temples she has access to, none of them really complement her abilities, so it's really up to you what you want to do at that point. She is a pretty straightforward god, and as far as it goes, there's not really much to say. In terms of replacement from early, mid, and late game, being able to redraw your hand is always beneficial no matter what stage you're in. or being able to discard cards from your opponent's deck. Those are always useful abilities, so she doesn't really have any outstanding position, maybe late game or mid game where there's more cards or more warriors available. Maybe at that point she'd be more beneficial, but honestly her abilities make her tough to place what position of the game she's best in. Next on the Greek side is going to be Artemis. Artemis is another one of those cards that had to change. Her previous iteration had abilities that related to Apollo, beneficial and hazardous. This time they made it so she's just by herself now. You don't have to have paired up Apollo to get true power out of it. It's just by herself now. Her first ability, Dark Hour. When a god uses a god ability, paying 1, negate that ability. That's huge. That's because you can stop any god from doing her ability. Her second ability, which is Heart-Seeking Arrow. Discard a red warrior card from your hand, perform attack equal to its attack. That has its pros and cons. Its pro is that if you have a warrior in your hand that's red and you want to attack, but you don't have the correct combination, you can just use that ability to attack. Unfortunately, you're not going to be getting any of the abilities, so if you use that ability on Fierce Star, it's only do 1 attack. You won't be able to get the rest of it. That can still be blocked by defenders. Any kind of defender can still block that. It's just something you can do if you don't have a combo and you want to do an additional attack. Or if you don't have anything going on and you just have the one red warrior and you want to attack with it for some odd reason. Interestingly, just keep in mind, when that happens, that's attack coming from the god, not coming from the warrior. So if there's a card that prevents an attack from a warrior, you're not attacking the warrior, you're attacking with the god. So it has the ability that stops the god from doing that ability. Temple-wise, unfortunately, the 3 temples she has access to don't really give her any real benefit. So it's really whatever you want to do with the temples. You're not going to get any really complementing support out of them on her abilities. Perhaps the one temple will be the Temple of Upsal, just because whenever you attack, you gain attack power, or you can increase attack, so that may be the one thing that will be beneficial for her when she does her ability. Gameplay-wise, earlier, mid, end game, her Dark Hour, it makes her beneficial always, so every point of the game, if someone's trying to pop abilities early, she can stop that. Only one thing is that you have to regulate her HP, because she will drop HP fairly fast if you keep reacting to it. On the Asgard side, next we have Loki. So Loki's artwork is now a waifu, as well as the abilities have changed slightly. Previous Loki's first ability was Bond. Bond was an ability that it kept going no matter what, so it just kept going and going and going. That made Loki kind of a time bomb, because as soon as Loki's ability pops off, you have to play the game a little faster because you're going to be losing HP constantly. Instead, they made it a react, so you can choose to have this ability activate at the beginning of each player's starting phase. That god loses 1 HP and also draws 2 cards. So this is going to do damage, but at the same time give them cards. So it is a Trickster ability, hence the name Trickster. You're going to have to use that a little wisely if you want to really damage your opponent, but you're going to give them a little benefit of having more cards in their hands to work with. Loki's second ability, Willingness, which is really great. During your play phase, you may ignore color chains when you play cards. If you do, draw 2 cards out of 5 during your next end phase. So drawing 2 cards out of 5 is painful, but the big takeaway is chain colors is gone. So you can just have a warrior attack, 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 attack. You can just attack with all 5 warriors or more if you have them. Somewhat similar to Sora and Odin. Temple-wise, Temple of Uppsala, that would be probably the best option for Loki, just because again, you're going to be gaining attack power, and without chains, you can attack constantly. You can just keep popping an additional 2 attack on every warrior attacking with. Early, mid, and late game, Loki questionably could be beneficial in all phases. Early game, you can draw 2 cards, you don't have a lot of cards in your deck just yet, so you might not be getting a lot out of it. But later on, mid and late game, you definitely want to draw up more cards, and if you get more warriors that may not combo correctly, second ability would definitely kick in. Mid and late game, it's definitely going to be very largely beneficial. Ending the Greek god side will be Athena. Athena has a defensive mechanism going on here, where her abilities, first one, React. Anytime you're attacked, you may activate his ability, and you can have any yellow warrior in your hand have React defense too. So that means if you're out of defenders or blockers, you can have Athena turn a yellow card into a defensive card. Her second ability, anytime an effect forces you to discard a card from your hand, you may choose not to. Depending on how someone can understand the wording on this, you can take this as an effect of making it so you can combo these two. So defend with the first ability, discards, and then anytime discard, bring that back to your hand and defend the next attack. But I don't think that's how this works, simply because anytime an effect forces you, her ability is optional. You may do this, you may play any yellow card, not forced to play it. If her second ability complements her first ability, that will be insane, because then you can defend, discard, bring back, defend, discard, bring back. You can't defend the same attack more than once though, so if one warrior attacks you with 4 attack, that blocks it for 2. You can't put it down, bring it back, and block for the other 2. You're going to have to take that difference. But because that is forced, not may, you won't be able to do that. On the flip side though, that means that anytime a card forces discard a card, you don't have to. So anytime a god uses some warrior cards, such as Pisces, so someone hits you with Pisces, her ability of making discard disciples from your hand, you could just say no and keep them instead. Temple wise, I would say Temple of Delphi would be the best option, just because whenever you defend Warrior Disciple, this gains on the temple and you pay 2 to increase the defense of 2. So if you're gonna have to use your ability in defense 2, added to a yellow card, this temple will be able to increase that defense to a 4, giving you more protection. Gameplay wise, early, you're not really gonna be utilizing this ability because you're gonna have defensive cards coming in because you only have 10 cards in your deck. Mid, late game wise, as cards start getting discarded from your hand by opponents' abilities, the second ability is going to keep you in the game, so you're going to be losing your cards. So you're going to be able to keep your hand until your turn, hopefully, unless you're going to start banishing cards, because when it comes to banish, that's not going to be something she can stop. The last card on the Asgard side is going to be Hel. So Hel's first ability, Revive. When any god's energy is reduced to 0, you may discard your entire hand. If you discard at least one card, that god comes back with 2 HP. So that's a huge last second lifesaver. Your god is reduced to 0 HP, but they're not knocked out yet. This cancels that knockout if you discard your hand and at least have one card in your hand that gets discarded. You can't do it if you have 0, because 0 doesn't count as a hand in this situation. That's really useful in terms of keeping yourself in the game. Offensive-wise, obviously, it's not something you can use offensively. Her other ability, Devour, when a disciple is banished, you may choose one god to gain 1 HP. So on the flip side, she can help gain HP, which is really good because, as you notice, these gods' abilities all use HP, so you're going to be running out of HP really fast trying to regulate how you're going to use your abilities and your HP at the same time. Warrior-wise, one where it's going to benefit Hel is going to be Aquarius, because Aquarius' second ability, choose 2 cards from your hand, banish them, draw 2 cards. You want to choose your disciples, preferably, banish disciples, and then when the disciples banish, you may choose one god and gain 1 HP. So you will lose those disciples, but you will gain HP for your god or any god really, because you can choose any god. This also includes Sacred Guardians, because Sacred Guardians' ability, banish this card to cancel use of a god's ability. You can banish that and still gain an HP off that as well. So Hel has interesting utilization of gaining HP and not dying, which is always good. Temple-wise, returning once again, Temple of Hertzwist, that will definitely be the best option because that benefits, or at least complements her ability of when a disciple is banished, because that's going to tie in with the ability to react here. When disciples banish, you gain HP on the temple, and again, pay 2, in this temple, banish 1 disciple from your hand, gain 2 fate points, and again, you gain HP every time that banish occurs. Gameplay-wise, Hel's abilities, being able to revive or being able to not die is always going to be useful. So throughout the game, early, if you somehow really screw up early game, mid, and late game, being able to stay in the battle is huge when it comes to Hel. That's going to wrap up all the gods in the Battle of the 9 Realms set. This does not include the promo gods. The promo gods I'm going to do separately because there's quite a few of them and I like to do them independently of what comes in the box for Battle of 9 Realms. But I hope this gives you a better idea on what these gods can do. Again, the way the game is played, you're typically picking gods at random, but knowing what their pros and cons and their strengths are, hopefully this gives you a better idea of what you want to use or which god to pick over which other in terms of gameplay. And of course, making the game a lot more involved and give you a better experience when playing with other people. If you see anything wrong in this video, just let me know so I can correct that in a later video. And if you want to have your own input or say some other advice or what be it, let me know too.